Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Camera Tuesday, we're going to talk about upcoming cameras. So let's dive right into it. Now first, there's the big announcement, that is Nikon Z9. Now this puppy is a full frame flagship mirrorless camera, so do not expect this puppy to be cheap. This puppy is expensive as hell. Now at this point in time, they have not announced a lot about it. All they have announced, this puppy is supposed to do 8K video recording. So that means at bare minimum, this puppy must have 33 megapixel. So most likely they have 50 megapixel. Now again, that could be wrong. They could be like 45 megapixel. But most likely they are aiming around 50 megapixel. Now one of the main selling point of this puppy is that it has stacked CMOS sensor, aka there is a sensor, then there is a DRAM, and then there is a circuit, and you can arrange it in such a way that there are multiple lines read simultaneously and dumping into RAM, and then the RAM dumps the data into your main memory. Now benefit of doing this is compensates for some level of rolling shutter. Now of course rolling shutter will not go zero, that can only happen if you do global shutter, but this comes very close. So if you are not talking about something moving very fast or blinking lights, this puppy is more than good enough. So that's what they are doing. Now why Nikon is announcing it such a weird way? Well, reality is Nikon is falling behind, and this is not something that happened now. This was happening long ago. For example, when I bought this current camera, Canon 800D, before this camera was announced, I was looking into its a predecessor. Now predecessor was like a contrast rated autofocus. However, back then you can easily find two low-end DSLRs from Canon, like 550D or 650D or something like that. So basically Canon and Nikon 5600 or something like that. And here's the, you can check video of that time, like as in like 3-4 years ago, and it was like Canon, even in contrast rated autofocus system, they were doing much better what Nikon could do. And when you are talking about mirrorless camera, inherently you do not have the luxury of having a second sensor whose sole job is to do autofocus. That's why Nikon's system is it's like hardware. They have the hardware, they have the same hardware as Sony does or any other company does. It's just they do not have the algorithm. And this the sole reason why Canon became so good, like became good enough to directly compete against Sony, which had a head start, was simply because Canon was doing amazingly well in algorithm department, and Sony, again, they've already had much more experience. So their algorithm, both of these puppies have much better algorithm than Nikon does. So Nikon does have the tech, but the algorithm is not there, and that's why Nikon's market share profit margin going down. So this has to be really good. That's why like they are announcing the stacked CMOS sensor. Now be mindful, Sony already had this. So do not expect too much in terms of image quality, but do expect in terms of basically how quickly it can focus, because if it can if it's done right, you can easily focus like 60 times a second. So people are expecting some big things with this puppy. Now another contender is from Canon EOS R3. Now this has some new technology from Canon's point of view. One of them is like basically eye autofocus. Now there is a camera that is looking into your eye and looking for what we call gaze, basically where exactly you are looking. Based on that, it's gonna put your focus point. Now will this work? Most likely no, simply because this is a Gen 1 product, and if you have lived long enough, you will know that Gen 1 products are always just like a proof of concept. It's never good enough. So let's see how good, or it could be mind-boggling. And another big thing is like they are changing the hot shoe. That's why hot shoe was covered. Hot shoe, they are learning from Sony, and they are utilizing what we call basically, they have not quote unquote announced it. Now it could change by the time the video comes out, but most likely they have not announced it yet when you're watching this video. So the data point is they will have a lot more pins there, exactly how Sony does. Now benefit of doing that is this will allow them to have microphones, GPS tags, or whatever have you directly connected from there. Benefit, it will improve, basically it's a user interface kind of enhancement, and because this is the first time a Canon camera that has vertical grip integrated will have a flip out screen. So they are taking basically videography quite seriously. So that's why I think this was a good announcement to introduce hot shoe mount, which most people will try to utilize with a microphone. Now the battery on this puppy is, because it's a big camera, it's LPE19. Now this is a very big deal, simply because switching over to a new Canon system is really horrendous, simply because Canon have 10,000 battery types. Like even in their cheap DSLR lineup, there is at least 4 batteries which have exact same voltage, exact same milliamp hour, but they have different designs, because F the customer, F the environment. But this time they are like at least learning from there. It's like, okay, hey, if you have Canon's pro level DSLR or DSLR equivalent of this puppy, you will have the same battery. Awesome. Many people, that will smooth out the basically switching cost, because this puppy is expensive, and not to mention batteries of this caliber are idiotically expensive. So that's a good thing. So let's see how this unfolds over time. Now we come to Sony. Now Sony has not done any major announcement while I'm making this video. Nothing is like, whoa, this is the big thing. Nothing like that has happened. So what can we expect at this point in time? We can expect A7 Mark IV. Now again, this is one of those things that I've been hearing for so long. It's a meme now, but most likely this time they will do it. And the reason for that, like this kind of weird kind of approach, is simply because they have complete lineup. For both other companies, Nikon and Canon, they are trying to fulfill their mirrorless lineup exactly how DSLR is. Now Sony already had a head start of multiple years, so benefit of that is they already have a complete lineup. What does that mean? That simply means they can cater to almost every audience. They can go to someone who's like, very low budget. They're like, buy A7C, full frame, E-mount, same battery, you're good, you're solid. That's the bare minimum you can do to invest into the system. And then they are like, hey, what if you want to go into video? And you're like, video is my thing. You can go A7S3, same lens mount, same battery. Then you will like, what, photography is my thing. You can go, hey, A7 R series. Then you're like, hey, that's good. Now you may be like, hey, I want to go sports, I need fast, I don't need megapixel, I need fast, A9. Or you may be like, I have GG amounts of money, I want best of everything, buy A1. So they have a complete product lineup. So they do not have to release too much things. They just have to keep updating them one after another. So they are like stable at this point in time, and their lens lineup is the one that is getting a lot of love. It's like they're releasing more and more ambitious lenses, which is amazing, and they're focusing on vlogging. Now primary reason for that is vlogging many people look down on, but reality is they are growing while photography is dying. Now photography as traditional photography, I'm not talking photography as whole, that's never gonna die, but traditional photographers, like I have a DSLR, I take photos, that kind of people are fading away. And I would say to temper your expectation, do not expect any groundbreaking things. There won't be like, whoa, this is the next big thing. Likelihood of that happening in 2021 is very low. Now let's come to the elephant in the room. So reality is this industry is dying, flat out dying. This is a graph from basically a worldwide graph of camera sales from 2019, 2020 and 2021. And 2019 and 2021, there is a giant gap. And reality is camera market is shrinking. Like I can flat out spot people who are like, I jumped into photography industry thinking there's going to be like, a lot of money, lot of growth opportunity. Reality is not. It's like dying, fundamentally dying. Now, why that is? Well, there are many things. Now, from a tech point of view, from a company's point of view, the tech has matured to point of diminishing return. What does that mean? That simply means you can pour a lot more money into it, but you will not get much more out of it. For example, if you have a good camera nowadays, I am talking as cheap as, let's say, Canon EOS R3, it's good. Like at this point in time, you can easily buy Canon EOS R3, invest in battery, lenses, flashes and all that, and you can go head to head with almost any pro, and you will be good enough. You won't be like latest and greatest, but you will be more than good enough. So reality is many people are no longer jumping into the the next big thing, because it's like, yeah, my current thing is good enough. Same thing happened with smartphone. Like earlier a smartphone, every Tom Dick and was switching as quickly as possible. Now people are like, the next thing is not the next big thing. So reality is point of diminishing return has been achieved. So at this point in time, there is only one big key changes that can happen, that is global shutter. And that's why like Sony has made some patents. So now these patents are old, they are like from 2018. The reality is Sony has figured out a way to have backside illuminated stacked image sensor with global shutter function. Now if that's a mouthful, now they have been selling this puppy. Now you're like, wait a minute, does Alpha Camera have that? No. The primary client for these sort of technology is the industrial camera division from Sony, and they sell camera to basically factories, drones and things of that nature. So they have developed the technology. Now would they make it big enough for big sensors? I do not know, but they have developed the technology. That is the next big thing. Now many rumors at this point in time is Canon is gonna release R1, which will be the latest and greatest. That puppy will have global shutter. Now I do want that to be true, because if that is true, I can be damn sure by the next 2-3 years every camera will have global shutter, because that's the next big thing. That's the one thing that's like that's still not good enough. And it's not a tech thing. It's just like companies are like, let's F the customer. So let's see what happens. And another aspect is sensor no longer matters at this point in time. We are limited by the CPU. Like you can easily find cameras, let's say that both cameras could be released in let's say $2,000, and you may find, hey, one is micro four third, another is full frame. How the heck they have similar prices? Processor. Now processor limits what can you do out of your system. For example, in video is super easy to compare. Mobile processors, they are so ahead. Is like in 2018 to 14, so in 2014 some mobile phone had the ability to do 4K with 10 bits. Right now, even cheap Android can do that. Here's the deal. Try to find a camera that can do 4K 60 at 10 bit. There are only few mirrorless camera. So reality is the CPU is the bottleneck at this point in time. So they have only two options basically, either A, up their game by like 10-20 folds, or B, just buy the basically CPU from either Qualcomm or RISC-V. That's also a good approach, simply because RISC-V is an open architecture, so they will not have to pay insane amount of royalty fee. They can do that, RISC-V, and go with that. But right now their current Exynos architecture or whatever have you is it's not good enough. So reality is that's the limiting factor. And chip shortage. So all this was not bad enough. Now we have chip shortages. So the reality of chip shortages is that most of the camera that was announced likely is not likely to hit the market, and even if they hit the market, the likelihood of you able to buy that, even if you have the MSRP amount of money, it would be around zero. So that's the one thing you have to understand. So at this point in time, sales are going down, demand is also dying, because people are finally giving up. Like there was a time where like every person who got a job was the first thing to buy was a DSLR. In tech world I'm talking about, like in Bangalore, that was the thing. You got your first salary, buy a DSLR. Now nobody is doing that. Why? DSLRs, mirrorless, they are running on 90s technology. It's like most of them do not have good touchscreen. It's like, how is that even possible? How the heck that's even feasible, that to have like freaking such a ugly touchscreen nowadays? The interface is bad. Then we come to another aspects that are like, just F the customer. Like for example, not having the ability to charge the battery in the camera itself. Why do I need a battery cradle? And you can't say like, oh, it does not have enough power. USB standard, normal basic which USB standard is 10 watts of power. Most charger can only charge battery at around 5 to 6. That's like more than enough. If your battery takes 2 hours to charge, that means it will charge at the same time speed, like if it can absorb the 10 watts. So even if 3 watt, why does that matter? That simply means that people can carry their DSLR everywhere, just have to plug it in. And interface wise, like they used to have GPS, they removed it. By this point in time, they should have much more technology into them, but they don't have it. Like you can't even do basic what we call exposure correction on camera. They have the processor, but they don't utilize it. You can't even do what we call time lapse anymore. It's like you have to buy external remote. Why? That's like 1800s technology, when they have to like an actual cable release to press it. It's like, why? It's like it's a clock function. My watch has more capability than that. It's like they're not doing it. So technology wise, they are ancient, and people are finally catching up, and mobile phones are reaching a point where they're like more than good enough. And the fact that you can utilize it, like heck, right now my very cheap F62, it's good enough. Why? Because it has the ability to do manual focusing. All I have to do is just disable it, so it no longer breathes. I can focus it where I want to disable it. This function, it's hard to find in many other DSLRs. So now you may say I can just move anything, but it has recording limit, which was an actual issue. Recording limit was an actual issue because European Union being a stupid one, but they removed the law. Only Sony has reached a point where they're like, no, every basically camera company can do more than 30-minute recording. We will not charge them video camera basically rates unless it classifies as video camera. So the reality is camera industry is not looking good, and their sales figures are like really not improving. They have to improve a lot, otherwise like they will slowly they will start to fade out, like which Nikon already started to do, where it's like we're gonna close down this service center in India, this and that, and then they're just gonna Olympus it. So this was my presentation on upcoming cameras. Hopefully you have liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me extra disappointment. Please leave a comment, because I do try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free, and as always, thanks for watching.